Hello and welcome to episode number 74 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And what a first week of the season it was. Excellent time. A lot of trades. You lost. I won. You're starting out the season 0-1 for the first time. Just a great long week for the league. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm really bummed about how the first week went. And not only 0-1 for the first time, we're in the fifth year of this league, and this is the first time I have a losing record at any point during the season.
My God, this is probably the first time this must be the first time I have a better record than you ever.
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption to make.
In both the standings and in the pick'em standings as well, I have a better record than you. We'll get to that later.
You do, yeah. This might be a better pick'em year for you. We'll get into that in a bit. Why don't we start out with these trades here?
Yeah, let's do it. There was one big trade that we really need to talk about. It's one that I guess we had been anticipating for a long time. Let's just say that. And that is, of course, me and Andrew made a trade. Tyler Zuber and 3 players to be named later to my team for 4 players to be named later, one of whom was immediately named as JB Bukowskis. Thoughts on this trade?
Well, I'm confused. It doesn't look like 4 players to be named later heading your way, because I see a PTB.
Oh, no, 4 players to be named later heading Andrew's way.
Oh, okay. Well, I see.
And one of them has been named.
Well, I see PTBNL, I see a player to BNL, and I see a P to the B and later. So
P to B and later. I love that.
I mean, I have to say, you all hyped up this trade, and the way you're hyping it up, I was like, this has to be some sort of troll trade, and you two have mastered the art of the troll here. I can't wait to see what these PTBNLs actually end up being over the course of the year as you make trades and announce them as the PTBNLs. But it lived up to expectations. I'm glad that I feel like Tyler Zuber is going to be a really integral part of your team. And I'm glad that you have the opportunity to roster him.
Tyler Zuber. Yeah, we've been waiting for for basically Kyle Lewis on my end to become IL eligible in order for us to make this trade so that I can have a spot to pick up one Tyler Zuber.
God, that waiting for
I picked up Bukowskis. Andrew had picked up Zuber. Yeah. He picked him up before the season started because he had slots, because his players were placed on the IL, unlike Kyle Lewis. That was can we use this as a segue to talk about how frustrating it was for teams being slow to put players on the IL?
Yes, we can. I share in that frustration. The amount of players that I had on my watch list who I was ready to add. I've been ready to add them for weeks, because we knew for weeks that Tatis and Flaherty weren't going to play, and that I wasn't able to add them because they weren't officially placed in the IL. It was maddening. I mean, I watched you get Andrew Kittredge. I watched Ruthvik get Lou Trevino. I watched Kendall Graveman go to Yuki, among other names. So I was deeply frustrated.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I had been waiting for Kyle. Kyle Lewis was really the only guy I was waiting for, but I've been waiting for him for quite a while, more for this dumb trade than for anyone specific to pick up. But I still was able to use that IL eligibility. And I picked up Jurickson Profar, who was super hot to start the year. He went over 3 today, but he's rocketed his way up to 51% owned due to his hot start, and he's hitting the ball well. I'm a big fan of him. I'll talk about him later. But yeah, no, a lot of people, especially relievers, whatever reason, teams in our league have kind of decided that the first week of the season is when you add all your holds guys. So you don't really want to miss out on that. I wonder if there's some sort of untapped gold mine there. But anyway, I missed out a little bit there. You missed out a lot due to all of that.
I got a couple of my reliever targets. I'm really happy with Hector Neris, who had a really solid week, and Ryan Tepera as well. So I'm all right with how it went. But yeah, it was definitely frustrating to miss some of the earlier targets. I know you got one of mine in Kittredge, so but do we want to talk about these trades now?
Yeah, let's talk about the
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 real
real big
trades.
trade.
Sorry, I guess we had started talking about the trades, but the real,
I
the
mean, I
substance.
don't think there's anything fake about Tyler Zuber for JB Bukowskis, but let's talk about the trade that we've been waiting for probably a year now. Yuki traded JT Realmuto to Bo with the Flow for Alex Kirilloff and Camilo Doval. What were your thoughts on this trade when it happened, and have they changed?
Love this, love this, love this. Yuki needed to trade Realmuto at the peak of his value. I thought there were a number of types of packages that he could go and get for Realmuto. I thought he did really well in getting Kirilloff. I know that Kirilloff has struggled a little bit to start his major league career. And actually, I believe he's hurt again right now. He just landed on the
He is hurt, yeah.
Yeah, he is hurt, but he's only 24. He's a really solid bat with a lot of potential as one of the Twins' top prospects. And I thought this is the exact type of guy he should be targeting, or these young guys. Maybe their stock's down a little bit, like when he acquired Austin Riley, and he's able to really bet on their talent and their upside. He's able to wait on them because he's not a win now team, and it really pays off. And I feel like Alex Kirilloff could be that exact type of guy. I thought he was great as the main part of the return here. And Camilo Doval has a lot of upside. I know he's been poaching some of the saves from Jake McGee, even though they named Jake McGee the closer before the season. As with any young reliever, he is a risk, but I think he's looked pretty decent so far. I thought this was a solid return from him for Realmuto, especially given that the market for Realmuto was really just Jake, because for the most part, everybody else had an established catcher. Jake had nobody at the time. As for Jake, he filled a need with one of the top three players at the position in Realmuto. He had some depth at first base with Matt Olson and Luke Voigt, and he has some talented outfielders as well, where, while Kirilloff would certainly be nice to have, I don't think he's lacking for depth there. He also has some interesting guys in the minors who, are going to come up and take some spots too. So classic need for need trade that I really like for both sides.
Yeah, I'm less high on this trade for Yuki than you are. I think Kirillov's fine, but and I think he's a good guy for Yuki to get, but I'm not sure I like him as the main return, since he's someone that Yuki has to slot and stash on his major league roster. He hasn't been very good in the majors yet. He immediately got hurt to start the year after a 1-for-17 start to the season. He really just hasn't shown anything in the majors yet for me to like him. I think Yuki, Jake has so many. What Jake does is he goes after all these really young, high upside guys. And I think that's the type of guy that Yuki should have gone after, like an Ellie De La Cruz, for example, or I don't know, an Andy Pages, or Owen Casey, for that matter. I think if Yuki could have really stood to go after some like a prospect, a currently prospect eligible player, to boost his farm system a little bit and help him out when this guy comes up in the next couple of years. I think Yuki really could have gotten a little more for Realmuto, especially given how badly Jake needed him.
Yeah, Kirilloff, I guess in his defense, he's only played 64 games in the majors. He was a top prospect entering last year, and he still has that pedigree. He did heat up at the end of last year before he got hit on the wrist, and that ended his season. And I'm not going to judge him too hard off of 18 plate appearances this year. And he did make the trade when Kirilloff was hurt. The hindsight's 2020 with these injuries. I don't know how long Kirilloff's supposed to miss. looks like a wrist injury, which is never good for a hitter. But you know, why not get somebody who's basically a prospect but has already played 59 games in the majors when you had acquired him? Maybe
I don't know.
maybe we just disagree on how we value Kirilloff. I'm not saying I love Kirilloff, but I think he's the type of guy you should go out and get. So
I think he is, but when you're trading away a guy like Realmuto, I would like him to have gotten more.
yeah, maybe what if it was like Realmuto for Kirilloff and Pages?
Oh, that would have been better for sure.
Okay. So I think it's more of you don't mind Kirilloff, but you wish there was a better second.
I mean, I don't love Kirilloff, you know. I mean, I think he's the type of guy you could go after, but I don't think he's worth Realmuto.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess compared to what Sal Perez went for in the middle of the season, and granted it was the middle of the season, Perez was having a historic year. You know, maybe the return is relatively underwhelming, but I think I love it for the direction that Yuki is taking, that he is kind of recognizing that he needs to tear it down a little bit, and he's doing something there. So let's talk about this next trade, though. Team Resnick has agreed to trade Mitch Haniger and Joe Barlow to the Deep Sea Devers, or should I say the Deep Seattle Devers, for Michael Conforto and Dylan Bundy. This one was a little baffling to me, but I'll let you start this time.
Yeah, no, the Deep Seattle Devers is right. Ruthvik's acquiring all of the Mariners. He even added Adam Frazier this morning, who immediately went 4 for 5 after I cut him, and then went 1 for 4 and 2 for 4 after that. So maybe I cut him a little too quickly. But that being said, we don't have to talk about that. Yeah, Ruthvik is the Deep Seattle Devers. He owns, let's count how many Seattle Mariners he owns. He owns Ty France, JP Crawford, Adam Frazier, Mitch Haniger now, Paul Sewald,
Marco
Gonzalez, and then not to mention Edwin Diaz, honorary Mariner. So that's 6.5 Mariners right there.
Matt Brash and his minor league team Matt now.
Brash.
So
of course, Matt Brash made his debut a couple days ago. So yeah, the Deep Seattle Devers. I think that works so perfectly. I love it.
Perfect.
But I mean, I don't think sure, it's a lot of players to own from one team, but also I don't think any of them have been bad moves. I think JP Crawford was a good guy to pick up as a free agent. And I think Mitch Haniger, I like this deal a lot for Ruthvik. Michael Conforto isn't going to get signed anytime soon by a major league team. Dylan Bundy sucks. He rode off of 1/2 a good season. And he got Mitch Haniger for him. Mitch Haniger is currently hurt, but he's off to a really solid start to the season. He hit, 30-something homers last year.
He had 39 homers and 110 ribbies last year and 110 runs. So fantastic year last year. Also, he's not hurt. He's on the COVID list. He tested positive.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Joe Barlow's an interesting reliever too. I'm not sure what the Rangers bullpen looks like. And I know he's off to a slow start to the year, but is he more expected to get holds or saves?
I think he is more expected to get saves, and he is only 26. Now, I don't know if the case is he's actually getting saves, but I believe going into the season, a lot of people, he does not have a save yet.
But the Rangers kind of suck. Yeah, I'm seeing he is their projected closer, but the Rangers, they haven't won a lot of games.
But still, 26-year-old reliever as the second piece in that deal, and probably the third best player in that deal is pretty solid. I mean, I largely agree with you. I was a little confused why Anthony made this deal. Now, it's not like Haniger is like super old or anything. You know, Haniger's 31. You could argue about the injury history and maybe wanting to sell high, but like I don't think Conforto is a sell high, and he's 29. He's coming off a down year. He's not even signed by a team. Conforto is a guy I've really liked for a while. I'm a little more down on him right now, but he's been a guy I've been trying to acquire for a couple of years. But just like I don't want to be the guy trading for somebody who is not signed with a team right now and having to stash him on your major league roster. Even when healthy, I don't know if he's necessarily an upgrade over Haniger. I'm not really sure what the logic behind this deal was for Anthony.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear that as well.
Yeah, I just maybe Conforto signs with the team soon. Maybe he ramps up, and maybe he's really good for 5 months, and maybe like Haniger gets hurt, which wouldn't be outside the realm of possibilities given his injury history, and like struggles this year because like he basically missed like a year and a half because he didn't play at all in 2020 and he missed most of 2019. So like there is the injury risk with him. He's only played a full season twice, but I don't think that means you should go out and trade him for Michael Conforto. I don't know. Nice.
Yeah, I agree. This is one that maybe could turn out okay in the long term for Anthony if Conforto signs in a good spot, but it's so risky. Who knows what's going to happen? Anthony runs the risk of Conforto never becoming a full-time player anywhere. And I mean Haniger, when Haniger's healthy, he's great.
Yeah, I like the idea of him selling Haniger for, because I do think Anthony's team is on the downswing, and I think we'll discuss that a little more later. But I like the idea of trading Haniger. I think just the wrong execution. But let's turn to this next deal here that Ruthvik made. I just gave a lot of praise to Ruthvik. I don't know if I'm about to do it here. Andrew sent Anthony Bender, Nomar Mazara, Jesus Christ, and a player to be named later to the Deep Sea Divers for Kyle Wright, and a player to be named later. We're assuming that the player to be named later is Nomar Mazara. So
I think that's a fair assumption.
I think so too. So I think this boils down to Anthony Bender for Kyle Wright. I hate this for Ruthvik. Like, I hate this. And it's funny because I've been on the Kyle Wright sucks bandwagon for a while. But Kyle Wright is finally showing something. He had a really good first start against the Reds. Kyle Wright's biggest problem throughout his time in the majors is that he can't cut down the walks. But he cut down the walks again in that start against the Reds. Why not hold on to him and see if you have something? He's only 26. He pitched well in his second start after he had traded him. And now Kyle Wright's value is a lot higher than Anthony Bender. Anthony Bender might not even be the closer when Dylan Floro gets off the IL. I know Ruthvik was really looking for saves, but he could have picked up David Robertson. He could have picked up one of the gazillion pop-up saves guys that are going to come throughout the season. I mean, Liam Hendricks was a pop-up saves guy a few years ago that I added. Lou Trevino was one who actually Ruthvik just added recently. I mean, there are cheaper and better ways he could have gone out to get saves, and to go and give up one of his more promising starters baffles me. And it's weird because saying this before the season, you would be like, whatever, Kyle Wright, it's time to get rid of him. But Kyle Wright looks like a different pitcher with a different pitch mix right now and more control and command on his pitches. I don't get this for Ruthvik.
So let's get this straight. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I kind of want to hear you talk about how. So you've hated Kyle Wright, you hated him for a long time. And suddenly he makes one, you love him now because he makes one good start against the Reds.
Look, I'm not saying I love Kyle Wright, but I think that Kyle Wright, seeing that first start and
against the Reds.
Okay, against the Reds, but seeing that first start and seeing some of the changes that he made to his pitch mix, some other things beyond just the opponent that he was facing, would make me be like, hey, let me not immediately trade him away for just a random low tier closer. Let me see if there is something there. If the downside is that he has to cut Kyle Wright in 2 weeks and he doesn't get Anthony Bender, that's fine because he cuts Kyle Wright in 2 weeks and he can probably pick up somebody who's going to be roughly the equivalent of Anthony Bender off of free agency. There is the high upside by keeping Kyle Wright, and he really has nothing to lose by keeping Kyle Wright. It's a high risk, low reward move that he made going to get Anthony Bender. The high risk being that Kyle Wright, the changes that he made in his first start stick, and they did stick in his second start. He pitched very well against San Diego, a much better lineup earlier this week. It's just, I don't know. This just didn't feel smart. And again, I'm not, I've bashed Kyle Wright in the past. I'm not saying that Kyle Wright is suddenly an ace. I'm not saying that Kyle Wright is suddenly a guy who's going to carry Andrew's rotation or anything, but there's a history of starting pitchers who really come out and they struggle, and then, give them some time, they're able to figure it out. Look at Corbin Burns. Ruthvik also got rid of Corbin Burns. I'm not saying Kyle Wright is Corbin Burns, but like, this stuff happens.
So my thoughts on the deal.
Yeah.
I don't really have a thought either way. I think, Ruthvik, I guess, probably got less value. But I think this deal is fascinating, and here's why. Because Kyle Wright is simultaneously a buy high, a sell high, and a sell low. He sold high on him because he made one great start against a crappy team, but there was a lot of buzz around him after that start. But he sold low because he had expired his 50-inning eligibility, or I guess he had exhausted his, his
minor league eligibility.
His minor league eligibility, his non-roster invitee eligibility, which means he had to do something. He had and his 7 days were up. Ruthvik needed to do something immediately with him. So I guess more accurately, it was a sell high with zero leverage. So I guess he could have very easily chosen not to trade him, but he did choose to trade him. And it's fascinating to see that Anthony Bender was the return. Because I could have seen myself, if I knew Kyle Wright was available, I probably could have put together a better offer than Anthony Bender. But would I have? Because I know Ruthvik has no leverage in this scenario. And what I wanted to possibly, I don't know, Kyle Wright. I don't know. I'm just fascinated with this. I think this could either be a deal that we immediately forget next week, or it could be a deal that we remember forever.
Yeah, I agree. It's very fascinating for that reason. I just why wouldn't he at that time he still had Paul Sewald, cut JP Firesign, cut somebody else. Just see what you have in cut Paul DeYoung, see what you have in Kyle Wright. I mean, this is a dynasty league. I get that you want to put your best foot forward each week, but sometimes, especially early in the season, you kind of want to figure out what you have in the guys that you have and that you've invested in. So at least take the time to figure that out and then make a decision. And I don't think that he took that time. If Kyle Wright had a bad start, his first start, I think it would have made more sense. We wouldn't really be thinking about this. We'd be praising Ruthvik for getting rid of a bad guy. And I think you're right. That's what makes it a sell high, sell low situation. It's hard to know. But we'll see. I think you're right. It's going to be fun to track this one. This is one of the more interesting under the radar moves that we've seen recently.
It is. But yeah, big trade week for week one. A lot of moves getting ready for our first week. And now that those are out of the way, do you want to talk about that first week? We're finally back. It's time to talk about some matchups. I know I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I will say there is one more trade that we've yet to talk about, but that is a great segue into the first matchup we're going to talk about, which let's prepare for the disappointment. I lost to Erik 9-2-1. A fact that I told you earlier today that it feels weird to say, but it is actually true. This is season 5 of the league. I have not lost to Erik since the second season, the finals. I had just started law school the last time I lost to Erik, so this one was a long time coming. I swapped him last year. Erik's team just dominated this week. He had 100 ribbies, 24 homers, 80 runs, 114 Ks, 246 ERA, 6 holds. I mean, in every category, he dominated. His team had an awesome week. I thought he did a great job of management too. In particular, he knew when to bench some of these guys. He benched Ohtani for a start, and I don't know if that was intentional or more if he just wanted to get Ohtani's bat in the lineup, but Ohtani blew up. He benched Nick Martinez. That was a shrewd move. He picked up Owen Miller, which Owen Miller's been on a tear. So maybe that ends up being the next really good Erik pickup. Maybe he's just a streamer. Who knows? But yeah, Erik thoroughly dominated me this week. I mean, I'll give my team credit. They came back in the middle of the week, and it looked like for a while that we might tie. And then Saturday happened, and his offense was really hot. My offense was really cold. My offense had a good day today, but it just wasn't enough. My team just did not perform this week. There were some individual performances that I was really happy about. Christian Yelich just hitting the snot out of the ball, but just like balls have not landed for him yet. So I'm excited to see that, how that develops for him. Do you want to guess who the number one outfielder in the player rater is going into today?
I think I know what the answer is going to be based on the way you're asking this question.
Yes, it is Miles Straw. That is correct.
Yeah.
Miles Straw has been on a tear to start the season, as has Wilson Contreras. And Julio Urias pitched 5 really solid innings today, or yesterday. So some of my offseason acquisitions have gotten off to hot starts. Some of the other guys who I think were coming off of injury-riddled years last year or injury concerns have had some good numbers. Max Muncy's heating up a little bit. George Springer had a good week. So I'm hoping some of these guys can carry their momentum over. Freddie Freeman's another guy who's heating up too. Jose Altuve said he was going to steal some more bases in the offseason, and he has. He's already stolen a couple bases. So I like to think that my team is actually going to record a quality start this coming week and not deal with some of these pitch limits and stuff like that. I'm hoping that they just end up, kind of getting some of this rust shaken off of them and they can actually perform well. Am I frustrated? Yes, I'm very frustrated. Am I worried? Not yet. And I will say I did crush Erik 11-1 in the second half of last year, and Erik ended up winning the championship and I did not. And I felt really good after playing Erik that week, but it didn't mean jack shit. So it is just week 1. I'm trying to tell myself that. And I'm trying to focus on the individual performances that I'm very happy about. But I mean, this was about the worst case scenario for how my season could have started. I could not have drawn up a worse start.
I think you're probably right about that. Erik jumped out to a big lead early. It looked a little bit as if he was kind of screwing around with the back of his roster in the middle of the week, as if he wasn't worried about the matchup at all. Then you came back to tie before he pulled away, so that was a little interesting. But you've talked a lot about your perspective. I'll talk a little bit about Erik's team. Did I say Andrew? I feel like I might have said Andrew on accident earlier.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
If you did, I mean...
all right. Either way, we'll leave this in just in case.
Yeah.
But Erik's team, there's really only one. There's one guy you didn't mention that needs to be talked about, and I think he'll be mad if we don't talk about him, and that's Seiya Suzuki. Oh my God, what a first week in the majors for him. 529 on base. He hit 4 home runs. People were worried, is he going to hit in the majors in America? Clearly he has. Absolutely incredible start to his career. I clicked on him. What I'm seeing is he's number 1 among outfielders in the player rater. I don't know, it might calculate differently. And maybe this was before today's games. I don't know.
He is number 3 on this list I'm looking at. In fact, Erik has number 2 and number 3, which is Starling Marte and Seiya Suzuki, per what I'm looking at here.
Gotcha. Yeah, but Suzuki, I mean, he drove in 11 runs and scored 7 times. And, well, how did Erik get him? Did he trade for him? No, he got him for free with the 7th pick in the draft, which is that is, I mean, oh my God. It's been 1 week, but that could turn out to be an absolutely huge steal. 5 different teams passed on him, and Alex and Zach passed on him twice. They could have gotten him right now as a major league ready player. We'll see if that ends up being something that costs us. I say us because that includes me.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I would have drafted Suzuki if I had the chance, and I did. I was sitting at 6 at one point. I did end up trading that pick for Urias, so I wonder if I'm going to regret that too. But it's Suzuki was really good this week, as was a lot of Erik's bats. Owen Miller was great. Jose Ramirez was great. Erik has the number 2, number 3, number 10, number 11, and number 21. He has 5 of the top 21 players in the player rater, including 2, 3, 10, and 11. So it just a great start for him. Good for Erik, as he looks to repeat his championship. Before we move on to the next matchup, we have to give a shout out to Cavan Biggio. I have traded him away for a 2028 third-round pick. I was hyped up all offseason being like, he is going to bounce back. He's going to get the playing time, even if it's low in the lineup. The potential is there. And then he has not been playing every day. And I was ready to move on. I was going to cut him, but the Bellies swooped in at the last second and said, hey, I'll give you my next available third-round pick. Their next available third-round pick was not until 2028. So I am now in possession of their 2028 third-round pick, which who knows? Maybe I'll use that for something good. I don't know, but I now own an extra 2028 third-round pick. Congratulations to me. I once talked about Cavan Biggio for 20 minutes on this podcast. That is hard to believe. One of the all-time greatest or most snooze fest worthy podcast moments, depending on how you look at it. But I'm not going to miss Cavan Biggio. But
yeah, that was a bad deal for you. I knew it at the time. The league felt pretty split on that. But yeah, you live and learn.
When I look back at the worst deals I've made over the course of this league, I think this has to be, if not number 1, like in the top 2 or 3, the Biggio for Brandon Lau deal.
Mm-hmm.
And
anyway, but while we're talking about the Bellies, let's talk about the Bellies this week.
Great transition.
Yeah, they just made a trade. They have the number 1 player in the player rater. That's Nolan Arenado, and they had the big upset of the week. They won 7-4-1 over a team that made the playoffs last year, Team Resnick.
Yeah, their team came out firing, both on the hitting side especially, and also on the pitching side. They were able to keep the ERA and whip relatively low. I don't know, we've critiqued this team in the past for, Greg and Daniel are not super active. But
they used 5 ad drops this week.
They did.
That's more than a lot of teams did.
They did. But I think they have they have some interesting pieces on
more than you did.
Yeah, I kind of said earlier, I kind of like hanging on to some of these guys earlier in the year. But to their credit, hey, last year week 1 they picked up Cedric Mullins. But to their credit, they were able to pull out a W here. It was a nice win. I think we underestimated them a little too much early in the season, or maybe it's a product of who they were playing. Anthony is coming off a playoff appearance, but he did fade very badly down the stretch, and he was a quick one and done in the playoffs. How good is Anthony's team? Is Anthony's team worse than the Bellies, or are we overreacting?
I think that might be at for now, an overreaction. I'm not the most high on Anthony's team this year. They didn't even win the OTP championship this year, so that's a bad sign for them. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think Anthony was not amazing this week. It's hard to I guess kind of judge what stats should look like in a long week like this. Um, but the bellies looked great. I think they've always had a high on base percentage. They've always kind of run a high OBP, and this week they had the highest 359 on base percentage. That was mostly led by, I mean, Nolan Arenado's superb week. What did he do? He had a 514 on base percentage, 4 homers, 12 RBIs. But other guys like Jeff McNeil had a great week. Mark Canha had a 500 on base. Tim Anderson 414. He hit 3 doubles as well. Yeah, there's a lot to like from this team's hitters this past week. And they've been known to make some good moves early on in the year. And I think, yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, they play Alex and Zach's team next week. I wonder if this team could get off to a 2-0 start.
We shall see.
Yeah, I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. I'm not saying this is a playoff team or anything, and I don't want to overreact because you and I both have them ranked as a bottom 2 team going into this year. But if they're able to keep up some of the things that they're doing, this team has some potential. I think the roster would definitely need to be supplemented to raise their ceiling to be a team that's contending for a playoff spot. But maybe there's a little more potential in there than we anticipated. Speaking of teams with potential, do we want to talk about this Alex and Zach versus Ruthvik matchup?
Yeah, let's do it. Great week for Ruthvik. Neither of us really liked the Kyle Wright deal, but he came out strong this week. His strength has always been his pitching, and that showed with a 2.86 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, 3 quality starts in a week where no one got any quality starts. Great job for this team. Yeah, anything specific that you have to say? It was a 9-3 victory. Who pitched well? Nestor Cortez. I know Ruthvik likes him a lot. Nestor Cortez could be a budding ace. Logan Webb picked up right where he left off last year, as did guys like Paul Sewald.
Logan Webb looked really good this week. And honestly, Ruthvik's ERA could have been even a little better. He left 6 scoreless innings of Bailey Ober on his bench today. I don't know if that was intentional or not. That would have been another quality start. But yeah, I mean, I think the key with Ruthvik's team has always been the offense. It's, he's going to pitch well. Can he get enough offense where he can win most weeks? This week he was able to. He made some interesting additions in the offseason between, Gleyber Torres, Kyber Ruiz. He got Adam Frazier. He just got Mitch Haniger. Acuna starting a rehab assignment. So, if his team is able to hit enough, they're definitely going to be in the playoff mix. But it's we'll see what happens there. This is an encouraging first week for them.
Meanwhile, Carson Kelly went 1 for 22.
Yeah, I think it's time to ditch the 2 catcher setup and start Kyber Ruiz full time. I really like Kyber Ruiz's upside. I think as for Alex and Zach, I think that we always knew that this year was going to be still part of their retool. They did have some solid individual performances from guys that I liked. Logan Gilbert pitched 10 innings, only gave up 1 run this week against 2 pretty solid lineups, the Twins and the White Sox. Jesus Luzardo looked like an absolute stud in his first start. 5 innings, 1 earned, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 12 strikeouts. He's one of those guys where he finally has it all together, kind of like how Kyle Wright, we were just talking about him earlier. That could be like a watch out. Like he could be a real stud. So we'll see what happens with Alex and Zach's team. I do think they're still a year or two away from competing, and I think it showed this week, even though I picked them to win, which maybe I shouldn't have done that.
You should not have. But yeah, I don't think you mentioned Joe Ryan, but he also he made 2 starts, struck out 11 guys, had a 2.70 ERA. There's definitely a lot to like. The hitting was not very good though. 309 on base percentage. Brendan Rodgers, particularly guys like Robbie Grossman, are off to a slow start as well. Trent Grisham is not having a great season so far. Franmil Reyes. So there's a lot of guys off to slow starts on this team, but it's week 1. I'm not going to overreact too much. I'm trying not to, at least.
No, and again, shorten spring training too. So we try not to overreact week 1 usually, and then add on top of that, none of these guys have had the normal offseason. A lot of these guys are out properly ramped up. I'm not really taking away too much from these matchups until like week 3 or week 4. That's when I'm going to start worrying about some of these players if they have not started to pick it up or have not shown some positive signs. I get that some of these players are going to throw some real clunkers in here in the midst of also doing some good things. So it's just, kind of seeing, are they making progress from start to start? Or, are they getting more in a hitting streak after starting the season off slow? And I think these are the things that we have to look at. Hopefully for Alex and Zach's sake, they're seeing some progress next week. I guess breaking news in the hockey front, I saw GG Evil. Does that mean we won or did we lose?
Yeah, no, it looks like Evil's gonna win
on a tiebreaker. And it's funny because usually I thought the tiebreaker was going to be the highest seed, in which case Parker would have advanced, but evidently that's not the
which it should be, really. I don't know why it's not. I'm surprised that it's not.
This is like that's ESPN's default. That's pretty much every league's default, is the highest seed is the one that advances. So I'm surprised, and I'm sure there's going to be some pushback. Honestly, I'll be voting for the highest seed to advance in the offseason, even though it benefited Evil here. But it looks like we're getting another Andrew Evil matchup in the finals.
Another one. Yeah, 5-5-2. Yeah, you tied in shots. That doesn't happen very often. If Parker just streamed another skater, he could have won shots and could have gone to the finals. And yeah, I know he doesn't really have anyone to cut, but it's the semis. You find someone. You cut Zach Greinke in the finals of the baseball league.
I made the mistake year 2 in the finals against Erik of not cutting players, and I lost a close one, and I regretted that. And I swore I wouldn't make that same mistake. And when I played Zane the year after, I lost Alex Coleman and Chris Taylor to cutting them, but it was totally worth it because I won a championship. You have to do what you have to do.
You do, and the best guy to cut for Parker would have been probably his namesake, which is tough.
He was trying to trade him in the middle of this. No,
but I'd so clearly would have. If he gets one shot from anyone, he's in the finals.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to stream a single shot, especially when plus minus isn't an issue, than it is to stream try and get hope you're lucky and get a double or a homer in baseball.
Right, that's so frustrating for him. You know what? I'll take that. I have to say we were dominating at the beginning of the week, and then I was kind of surprised how close they got today because I hadn't checked it since Thursday. So. But I know Parker's not going to be listening to this, but congratulations on a good season, Parker. It is great to see that Vasilevsky is indeed not as good as Tristan Jarry, because Tristan Jarry's been to 2 finals in this league. And you know how many Vasilevsky's been to? That's right, 0. So, it's going to be a fun playoff week next week, or as I would like to call the lemon bread final, because Redmond is Evil. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's yeah, I came up with that earlier. I'm particularly proud of myself for
That's all right. Well, back to baseball.
that.
I want to
we
talk
should
about my
we,
team.
we should keep this one in here for the
Oh no, absolutely. I wasn't planning on cutting it.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, speaking of the hockey league and one of the finalists here, let's talk about Zane and your matchup. Since this was your matchup, I will let you speak first.
yeah.
Speak.
So this, I picked a tie, and this was very much not a tie. I kind of had this. This was a 10-day matchup. I kind of had this one wrapped up by the third day, and I was just kind of coasting on cruise control. I was trying to. The hardest part of the matchup was determining whether I wanted to stream a holds guy, what or to try and maybe try and get a 12-0, or if I just kind of wanted to hold on to Aaron Loop to see if he wants to stick on my team. But other than that, there really wasn't any drama. Zane flipped ERA on the last day because of a bad start by Zach Wheeler. But I don't know. I'm very happy with the start to my team. I was kind of in cruise control most of the week. Francisco Lindor, amazing start to the season. Couldn't have asked for a better start. Juan Soto was doing Juan Soto things. Anthony Rizzo had a great start to the season. He hit 3 homers. Vlad Jr., how have I not mentioned him? He had a 3-homer game. He hit 5 on the week. I didn't mention Thor. Thor made 2 great starts. I'm very happy to still have him.
How did you forget Sean Manaea? He is the
Sean Manaea.
top ranked starter in the player rater.
That's true. Yeah, 13 Ks in 13 innings, 2 quality starts, 054 whip, which is great. Yeah, Sean Manaea as well. He's a guy I was worried about going into the year.
So funny because I remember his first couple starts on your team last year were like disastrous, and then I think there was an injury scare too, right after you acquired
He
him.
was disastrous. Yeah, I started him a few times. He was terrible. I benched him. He was great, and then I started him again, and he was terrible.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, we've talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad, and that was I still don't know what to do with Kelnick and Adele. Both were not great, but they did both homer, so that kind of boosts them a little bit. I've also lost Jonathan India to an injury, perhaps. Who knows how long that'll be? And I'm a little thin in the infield, especially since Gene Segura got hurt during the week. He might be fine now.
Did India and Segura end up landing on the IL? Because I know Segura's looked like it was going to be day to day.
They did not. Segura was back. He played today.
Okay.
India, we'll see. It's a hamstring thing. He kind of had a slow start to the year. But now let's talk about the weird. And the weird is one player in particular, and that is Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm, he's 10th in the player rater among third basemen. He has started once, or maybe twice.
Twice. He DH yesterday.
Alec Boehm, I don't know what to think of him because he has been kind of a pinch hitter extraordinaire this year. He's certainly hitting well enough to stay on my team. I'm not worried. I was worried about the bat. He's been hitting the ball well, and StatCast shows that. But the glove, he made 3 errors in a row one game. The glove has not been good, so he doesn't have a spot in the lineup.
Is that the only game he started at third base this year?
I think it must have been.
So he has a 700 average, but a 625 OBP. Interestingly enough, because I think he had a sac fly somewhere.
He and 2 of the 7 hits are doubles. He's driven in 4 runs. He scored 3 times. He's been good. He just doesn't have a spot yet. And I think these types of things tend to clear themselves up. I'm not worried, but it's definitely weird and something that I like. Do I put him in the lineup if he's not playing? Because if I put him in, then he'll pinch hit probably and get a hit for me. But yeah, it's weird. I don't.
It's a little concerning to me that Gene Segura's injury did not directly correlate with an uptick in playing time for Boehm. It seemed like Johan Camargo, among others, were more of the beneficiary of that playing time at third with Stott moving over to second base. And that concerns me a little bit. Because if they really don't trust his defense, and there's nothing to suggest that they do trust his defense, I don't know where he's going to play if Schwarber and Castellanos are going to need to DH a bunch, and they're not taking either of them out of the lineup. And it's not like they could stick both of them in the outfield at the same time because they also have Bryce Harper as a corner outfielder. And it's not like they could stick Schwarber at first base because they have Rhys Hoskins there, and Hoskins has been awesome to start the year. So I wonder if Bohm just needs to be traded to get consistent playing time as a DH somewhere. Like, I feel like, for example, if they ship Bohm off to Oakland in a deal for Frankie Montas,
That'd be interesting.
I think it'd be great for Bohm's fantasy value. I don't see where the path to playing time is in Philly right now. And again, if Segura had gotten hurt and they're like, we're going to play Bohm every day at third base now, that's fine. And maybe there's still like, there were reports even after his hot start that they were like, hey, maybe, they're still tinkering with Bohm's swing. It's still not all the way there yet. And I wonder if they're still trying to work with him a little more before getting him in the lineup a little more consistently. Maybe they're like, he hasn't had the full spring training. Let's give him a couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, I'm a little baffled with how they're treating him because you're right. He should be in the lineup every day. As should Adele and Kellenic. Why Jose Rojas and Taylor Ward are worthy of playing time over Adele, I have no clue. And why Kellenic isn't playing every day, but Julio Rodriguez is, and Haniger is, and Jesse Winker are, I really don't understand. But I imagine that has to be a frustrating situation for you. We've talked about this all off season where you're going to have to make a decision on these guys. And if they're not playing every day and you're already rostering Bauer, who's not playing, and you can't stash him on your IL, I wonder if it's going to hurt you in future weeks against better teams when you're going to be playing a little more shorthanded, or shorthanded in the sense that you're not going to have Bauer, and then maybe Bohm and Adele and Kellenic are not playing every day. And I wonder if that's going to hamstring you.
I definitely feel shorthanded. And
Yeah.
I mean, if Bryson Stott keeps hitting the way he's hitting, then Bohm will take his spot back from him because he has got a 377 OPS. I understand why they're giving him a shot now, but if he keeps hitting this way, that won't last terribly long, at least in the short term. But
yeah,
it's weird. I was hoping to get some clarity on Bohm, and this has not been clarity.
I mean, at the very least, the bat is playing. And then again, it is only 16 plate appearances, so who knows? It could just be a hot 16 plate appearances. He does have a 538 batted.
Yeah.
So, hey, we'll see. How you figure out this logjam, I think, is going to be one of the more interesting things that we get to see over the next few weeks. Not only that, too, but like Barrero at some point is going to be ready for you to play. Brujan should be up at some point, so honestly, Adley Rutschman's going to be up, and the way that Sean Murphy's playing, I don't know what you're going to do. That's a good problem for you to have, but and Murphy might not keep this up, but you're going to have some decisions to make is the point. But I feel like we've talked about your team a lot. One thing I do want to say about this EBO team before we switch off, they do have some individual players that I was a little questionable on, but they have looked really good. Justin Verlander had a vintage Justin Verlander start yesterday, 8 shutout innings, 8 Ks, no walks, 3 hits against the Mariners. Andrew Heaney today, and granted it was against the Reds, but 6 shutout innings, 1 hit, 3 walks, 11 Ks. He has 10 1/3 shutout innings to start the season now.
Yeah.
So that looks good. The Javi Baez move has looked like it's paid off, although he did get hurt. And nice for EBO to have Torkelson up. I know he's hit a couple monster home runs. So this was not the first week that they expected. But it was, I think there is some reason for optimism still, and I do think that they're going to compete this year for a playoff spot. I don't know how high the ceiling is, but my opinion on them hasn't really changed from this first week. I still think they did a lot of good things, especially in the pitching side. I felt a little more confident with their performance there than their offense this week, which I think really struggled.
Yeah, no, EBO dug themselves a big hole in ERA early on, and they came back and won that category and almost won whip too. So there's certainly a lot to like from that pitching staff potentially.
For sure. Speaking of pitching staffs with a lot to like, why don't we talk about this Clayton versus Yuki matchup? Because it's really Jake at this point. This Jake versus Yuki matchup. It says Clayton's name first on here, so it always messes me up. But Jake had a 2.45 ERA and a .99 WHIP this week. He cruised against Yuki 10 or 8-2-2. It wasn't a special week with the bat at all. In fact, kind of a disappointing week with the bat for both the flow, but the pitching was very strong, and that really carried that. I wonder, had they played a team that was a little bit better, I wonder if this would have been closer just because of the quality of their hitting this week. 12 homers and 41 ribbies is not going to cut it, especially in a 10-day matchup. But I think a lot of positives to take away from the start from Clayton and Jake.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled by that team's bats either. 12 homers over a long week, that is 41 RBIs. That's not going to cut it most of the time. But yeah, the pitching, we've talked about quantity over quality being this team's MO. But they left 5 starts unused, and they had a 2.45 ERA and a WHIP under 1. That's kind of the opposite of what we think of when we think of this team.
Well, I think having 19 starts this week, plus they were cruising against Yuki from the beginning, I don't think he was too inclined to use them all.
That's fair. He got some great starts from Tyler McGill though. Carlos Rodon looked really good to start out his time in a Giants uniform. So there's a lot to like from the pitching staff, not so much from the hitters. As for Yuki, the OBP was under 300. And I know OBPs are always a little slow to start, but that was still one of the worst numbers. He's trying a lot of things out. He's mixing and matching a lot of pieces, a lot of relievers on and off his team. Same with hitters. And maybe something will stick, because right now his team doesn't look great.
Kind of worked with the relievers. He had 7 holds and 7 saves this week.
That is true. That's
a lot.
Yeah, very good.
He and I are the 2 teams with no quality starts. Imagine saying that at the beginning of the week. But you're right. The offense really didn't do much of anything. I mean, he has Erik Hosmer playing first base. I mean, that should say everything. He has Kyle Farmer starting.
Yeah, Erik Hosmer has been picked up by a team, and that team is Yuki.
Erik Hosmer has actually been hitting really well to start the season.
So we look back, Erik Hosmer, each of the past 5 years has had a great first 4 days of the season.
He's basically the anti-Votto.
Yeah.
It's like if you took Hosmer's like first 3 weeks of the season and then added it to the rest of Votto's season, it would be like an awesome hitter. But that's just not the case here. He was tied for the MLB lead with 12 hits overall after Friday. I don't know what happened after that. He had 2 hits on Saturday combined on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, I mean, this team is not particularly good. We knew that going into the season. I was not surprised that they lost this matchup. Are you feeling better about Jake's team after this matchup, or are you feeling about the same?
I'm feeling about the same. I'm not really ready to change my mind just yet.
Me neither. The one thing I will say that you and I discussed this week is it kind of baffled us how long it took for him to get Steven Kwan and Jeremy Pena up on his roster.
It makes sense. I'm not sure Steven Kwan going forward is the most fantasy relevant player. He's
not. He's hitting number 2 in a very good Cleveland lineup, or not a very good Cleveland lineup. It's a good top at all.
It's a lineup that's been hitting very well to start the year.
Yeah,
they've played the Reds.
Have you seen their OBP numbers compared to the rest of the league to start the season?
It's absurd.
Nuts. Yeah, it's like they're like at 360 something, and the next team's at 320 something, I think, or something like that. Steven Kwan is a 541 OBP. 37 plate appearances. I mean, you're right. He's not going to hit for power. He's not going to hit for speed. He's a glorified Luis Arias.
he's a Nick Madrigal who's shown it in the majors that what he can do.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Exactly. We'll see what happens there, but I'm not particularly confident in him as like a super big fantasy asset. And I think I agree with you. My opinion's about the same.
All right. But there is one more matchup that we have not yet talked about, and that was this was one of the more interesting ones, and it's the only one that I guess technically hasn't been decided. Has this one been decided yet?
It has been. None of the categories were affected by
Right,
Andrew.
that game is.
Yeah. So Andrew,
yeah, and I guess the last game is over. It is Andrew versus Conor. There was a little hope that maybe Andrew could tie doubles and flip on base percentage in the final day. It did not happen. Conor comes away with a 7-4-1 victory. And earlier in the week, this one was looking a lot more of a blowout. Andrew kind of came back a little bit.
Yeah, kudos to Andrew's team for coming back. I will say Andrew became the first victim of our new rule where you are not allowed to take advantage of the ESPN loophole and start as many starters on Sunday as you can if you have not gone over the limit before that day. But Andrew had 11 saves. Jordan Romano had an awesome week there. A couple quality starts, solid ERA and WHIP. So at least a decent start from the pitching staff. His OBPs were low again, and that was a theme that was consistent last year too. And I think for Andrew to take the next step, he needs to have guys who are getting on base more consistently. But a lot to like. Conor was a tough matchup. I think Andrew still has a chance to get off to a hot start just looking at the rest of his schedule in April. I think this was his hardest matchup. And I'm still reasonably confident in this team. And who knows, maybe they're able to pull off a few wins over the course of the season and keep themselves in the playoff hunt. But if not, I still think they're set up very well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one I would have. I mean, if Andrew had won, it would have been a proof of concept for what we were kind of hoping. But yeah, no, he. Yeah, like you said, low on base, but high everything else. And that's kind of summed up with guys like Adolis Garcia, who had a 282 on base, but he hit 2 homers and scored 6 runs. CJ Cron, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, but only a 333 on base. Kyle Schwarber, 222 on base, but he hit a pair of homers. Yeah. Ozzy Albies, 4 homers, 306 on base. It's a lot of that on Andrew's team this week.
Did I tell you, I had a day this week where I had an OBP just under 500, and I did not get an RBI until the very last at-bat. It was like the 60-something at-bat of the night. I got an RBI single. I had 8 doubles that day. None of them drove in a run.
That's insane.
Yeah, so like these RBIs are just nuts where some of these are coming from. But that is another thing too, though. If you're looking at that from the flip side, he's having these low OBPs now, and he happens to be getting run production from them, but that's not always going to be the case. So that's another thing just to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about all these matchups. Is there anything else you would like to add before we transition over to the next part of the episode?
Yeah, let's go ahead and preview week 2. There were 2 matchups we singled out for matchup of the week. The first one, we'll talk about this quickly. It's you versus Conor. That one, well, it's most interesting because it's the rematch of the semis, in which, well, that semis matchup has been named the defining moment of the past year in the M-SABR Dynasty League. Yeah. And you play each other week 2. How are you feeling?
It's a must win. I have a tough start of the schedule here because I play Erik this week. We all know what happened. I play Conor, so that's the 2 finalists right there. After playing Yuki next week, though, I play you week 4. So if I don't win this week, there's a really real chance I'm starting the season like 1-3, and I don't want to dig myself in a hole like that. So
don't forget you lost your last matchup against Yuki.
That is true. So I can't take Yuki for granted either. I can start 0-4.
You're 4 You've lost your most recent matchup against Erik now. You've lost your most recent matchup against Conor, your week 2 opponent. You've lost your most recent matchup against Yuki, your week 3 opponent. You've lost your most recent matchup against me, your week 4 opponent.
Have I lost my most recent matchup against my week 5 opponent? That's
Probably
I definitely
not.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this feels like a must win for me. Luckily, Connor's maybe the hottest player in baseball before he got hurt, Byron Buxton, is going to be out for a bit. And I think that that's going to give me a little bit of a leg up offensively. But boy, I mean, there is it's going to be a good one. I will not be taking him for granted. The other matchup we wanted to talk about, though, before I stress myself out too much, was, and maybe you know it off the top of your, here it is. It's no, I don't have it.
It's it is Ruthvik versus Jake.
Yeah, I think these are two evenly matched teams who did some interesting things week 1, but we don't really know what they're going to be. And I think that this is going to have important future implications, whether it's a tiebreaker, whether it's, they're going to be finishing close in the standings for seeding or for whatever. I think this matchup could have some implications down the line. So I'm curious to see who comes out on top. Whoever comes out on top, unless they tie, will start 2-0. And starting 2-0 would be really huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams looked really strong in week 1, but albeit not against particularly strong opponents. I want to see more from each of these teams, and now they'll get a chance to do it against each other.
Absolutely. With that, are we ready to make our picks?
Let's do it. So how did we each do in week 1?
Yes. For the first time in a while, you did better than me. We both picked Anthony to beat Daniel and Greg. They lost. Or Anthony lost. We picked Jake to beat Yuki. That turned out right. We picked Conor to beat Andrew. That turned out right. I picked Alex and Zach to beat Ruthvik. You picked Ruthvik to beat Alex and Zach. You were correct there. I picked you to win. You picked yourself to tie against EBO. You won. We both picked me to beat Erik, and obviously that did not end up correctly. So I start 3-3. You start 3-2-1. And with that, I will pick my matchup last. All right. So I'm going to start a little easier. Alex and Zach versus Daniel and Greg. I don't think the Daniel and Greg magic is going to last 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to pick Alex and Zach. Andrew versus Anthony. I'm going to pick Andrew. I think his team is just better. You versus Yuki. I'm going to pick Yuki. I thought you would react when I said that. I'm obviously picking you.
I know.
Oh, bastard. Erik versus EBO. I'm picking Erik. Ruthvik versus Jake. I am picking. Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, that could reasonably go either way. I wouldn't be surprised. The cop-out pick is a tie, and I haven't picked a tie yet this year. I'm going to pick Ruthvik and Nick.
Ooh.
I don't like picking ties. Ties feel like too much of a cop-out. And
I like ties. They're fun.
Yeah, they are fun, but I don't like picking them. Me versus Conor. I think the two things that get me with Conor is the Byron Buxton injury. That concerns me. And then the fact that he lost John Means to a rotation that I didn't think was particularly deep to start out with. I'm getting 2 starts from Cole and Nola and Hendricks and Fried. he's getting 2 starts from Ray is the only one. So I'm going to pick myself here. I'm not feeling particularly confident.
All right. I am going to pick Alex and Zach to beat Daniel and Greg. I think I will beat Yuki, no problem. Although I struggled twice against Yuki last year. I think Erik will beat EBO. I think Ruthvik and Nick will beat Jake. I think you're going to beat Conor in your rematch. And Andrew and Anthony, this one could go either way, which is why I'm going to pick the tie. I think Andrew's probably got the better team, but I think Anthony's going to come back a little bit stronger than he did last week. I want to pick a tie here. This is my tie of the week.
All right. Tie of the week. At some point, we have to count these ties just as losses if they don't count as ties, maybe deter you from picking ties, making the cop-out decision. But
I don't know about that. It didn't work well for me last year.
No, it did not. That's fair. All right. So we're basically same picks this week, except I'm picking Andrew to win outright. You're picking Andrew and Anthony to tie.
Yeah, there's some close matchups this week for sure. We kind of fell on the same side of it though. But I think I would not be surprised at all if Jake beat Ruthvik and Nick. But I think this team always starts out hot.
I feel like just because we picked Ruthvik and Nick both to win, I feel like Jake's gonna win.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. That one, I mean, you saw how long I debated that one. That one was. I wonder if Jake is the better team right now, but I was really concerned with the way that they hit this week. Yeah, I think that's about to do it. It is nice to do one of these in-season episodes where kind of go through the same normal routine. This is kind of the first one. Last week we did a little bit of an off-season preview, or the last time we recorded, I should say. It was 2 weeks ago now. This week was just straight reviewing the matchups of the last week and making our picks for the next one. Feels good.
It's fun. It's quicker too.
Was it quicker? I feel like
we rambled for sure, but it's quicker. Quicker than our normal ramble.
All right. Anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah. No, thank you for a great week 1. Looking forward to an exciting week number 2. It's exciting to be back. I'm happy to start at 1-0.
Yeah, God. Hopefully we're talking after me winning next week, because it's been a long time since we have talked about a win for my team, and I'm missing it. We are having a party tonight. We are inviting our best friends so they can have a good time.
This podcast is good.